Ocho JJ Redick may have taken a shot at LeBron, saying the Lakers, have been unorganized since his return. Since we've gotten Bron back, we haven't been organized offensively. Too many random possessions. That's on me. It's those three things: defensive clarity, role clarity, and offensive organization.
JJ Redick recently said that since LeBron returned to the lineup, the Lakers have been unorganized offensively. He talked about too many random possessions, a lack of defensive clarity, role clarity, and offensive organization. And even though he followed it up by saying, "That's on me," the damage was already done. Because when you say something like that publicly, especially as the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, people are going to read between the lines whether you want them to or not.
Excuse me. Luka can't play defense. Austin Reaves can't play defense. LeBron is at the age he can't play defense. Rui is not a defensive guy. DeAndre Ayton is not a defensive guy. You got guys that aren't defensive guys. That's not your identity. So who you saying defensive clarity? You don't need no clarity. It's crystal clear for me. You can't play defense. You got three offensive guys, and you try to outscore. They're getting layups. Look, come on, man, stop.
JJ didn't just make a coaching comment. He made it after LeBron James returned. And once that connection is made, there's no separating the two. So let me ask you this right now, before we go any further. Was JJ Redick holding his team accountable, or did he indirectly take a shot at LeBron James? Because how you answer that question changes the entire conversation.
And I see that they're off of the team. And I know one thing, if they do start playing defense, if Luka and Rui and goddamn LeBron start playing defense and putting in that effort on the defensive end, something has to give. And it's going to give with your offensive production. Your offensive output ain't going to be the same.
Now let's get into why Shannon Sharpe and Chad Johnson reacted the way they did, and why this moment matters far more than one press conference quote. The first thing Shannon Sharpe made very clear is something a lot of fans either ignore or don't want to admit. You don't need defensive clarity when the personnel simply isn't defensive. Clarity implies confusion. It implies guys not knowing where to be, what to do, or who they're guarding. But according to Shannon, there is no confusion here at all. It's crystal clear who this Lakers team is and who they are not. This roster is not built on defense.
And you had Rui trying to guard Kevin Durant. Okay, that's going to zap all of his energy. Because guess what he gave you on offense? Nothing. Yeah, he tries. I mean, he's a try-hard guy, but that's not what he is. Rui is a knockdown, and he's turned himself into a knockdown guy, spot up because other guys getting double. But you got to understand what you have. You don't have a defensive team.
Luka has never been known as a strong defender. Austin Reaves competes, but competition isn't the same as capability. LeBron James, at this stage of his career, picks his spots defensively because he has to. Rui Hachimura is not a lockdown wing. DeAndre Ayton is not anchoring an elite defense or erasing mistakes at the rim. So when JJ Redick talks about defensive clarity, Shannon's response is simple and brutal. What clarity do you need? You just don't have defenders. And that might sound harsh, but it's still the truth.
Luka has never played defense. You're never going to get him to play the defense to the level that's really acceptable. You just look at, because at the end of the night, he's going to have 40, 15, and 12. And so you overlook that his guy had 28. Or you overlook the fact that his guy had 30 because he's outscored him and did so many other things. But Luka's not going to play defense. Austin Reaves can't play. It's not going to play he can't. He just can't. They can play defense to a certain extent. But to the level that you're a championship contending team, it ain't happening.
You can scheme all you want. You can preach effort. You can talk about mindset and accountability until you're blue in the face. But championship-level defense starts with personnel. It always has. And the Lakers don't have that personnel. That's not an opinion. That's a roster reality.
Yeah, hey, listen, they got to be on. In order for the Lakers to win, in order for them to have success, because of their lack of defense or lack of players that can actually play defense, they got to be on offensively every goddamn night. They got to be on. Every night they got to be on.
Chad Johnson added another layer that made this conversation even more interesting, because he didn't just talk about defense, he talked about consequences. He pointed out that if this team suddenly starts locking in defensively, something else is going to suffer. And that something is offense. Energy is finite in the NBA. You can't ask Luka to give you 40 points, 15 assists, and 12 rebounds while also chasing elite scorers around all night. You can't ask LeBron to run the offense, control the tempo, read every defensive coverage, and still be your primary defensive stopper. Basketball doesn't work like that, especially in today's league where pace and spacing demand constant movement. This Lakers team wins games by scoring. They lose games when the offense isn't clicking. That's their identity, whether they like it or not, and trying to force them into something else comes at a cost.
Luka's going to handle the ball most of the time. Luka cannot play after the ball, so he has to have the ball in his hand the majority of the time. Clear, got it. Off to Reaves. He's going to have the ball the second and most of the time. LeBron James is really the best equipped to really play off the ball. He's now your third option. Okay, so when two of those guys are off the court, then what's the role clarity?
So when JJ Redick talks about wanting defensive improvements without acknowledging what it costs offensively, Shannon and Ocho see a disconnect between coaching ideals and roster reality.
Hey, look, I think JJ is phenomenal. I know he understands basketball. He can talk about it. But at the end of the day, like he was criticizing Doc, at some point in time, stop telling us what you need to do and get it done.
Well, it's hard to get it done if you don't have the pieces to get it done.
No. He went there and sold Genie Bus and all them a deal he could get it done. So don't tell me you can't get it done now that you're in there. Because you know the roster, you know the players that they had before you got your ass there.
Yeah, you're right.
But here's where the conversation really takes a turn. Because this isn't just about defense or offense anymore. This is about LeBron James. When JJ said, "Since we got LeBron back, we haven't been organized offensively," that sentence landed hard. Even if JJ meant it broadly, even if he followed it up with, "That's on me," even if he didn't intend it to sound like blame, because timing matters and wording matters. Before LeBron returned, organized. After LeBron returned, random. That's how people hear it. And Shannon Sharpe knows exactly how that plays inside a locker room. Players don't hear disclaimers. Fans don't hear disclaimers. Media doesn't hear disclaimers. They hear the headline. They hear the implication. And the implication is that LeBron disrupted the flow. Whether that's fair or not, whether it's true or not, that's how it sounds. And once that narrative exists, you can't pull it back. This is especially dangerous territory for a first-year head coach. JJ Redick is still establishing credibility in that locker room. He's still building trust. He's still figuring out how to lead veterans, stars, and role players at the same time. And when you publicly frame the team's struggles around the return of your most powerful player, intentional or not, it creates tension. Not just in the media, but inside the building. Shannon made a key point here by reminding everyone of JJ Redick's own words from the media side. JJ was very vocal about coaching accountability when he was an analyst. He criticized Doc Rivers. He talked about coaches owning results instead of explaining them away. Now the standard flips. You can't spend years saying, "Just get it done," and then turn around and say, "We need clarity," once you're the one holding the clipboard. That's what Shannon wasn't buying. But to be fair, Shannon also checked himself mid-argument. He acknowledged something important. Coaching isn't magic. You can't create something out of nothing. And that's where his famous analogy came in. You can't promise a 7-course meal when all you've been given is popcorn, cornflakes, cheese, and chitlins. No matter how good of a chef you are, those ingredients limit what you can produce. But then comes the counterpunch. JJ Redick knew the ingredients before he took the job. He knew the roster. He knew the strengths. He knew the weaknesses. He still wanted to be the head chef. So now the expectations come with the position. You don't get to act surprised by the limitations once the pressure hits. Chad Johnson tried to balance the conversation by giving JJ his credit. Nobody questions JJ Redick's basketball IQ. He understands the game. He can break it down. He can explain what's wrong. He can see the flaws before most people do. But coaching isn't about diagnosis. Coaching is about solutions. And this is where many former players and analysts struggle when they transition into coaching. Talking basketball and controlling basketball are two very different skills. One happens on a podcast. The other happens under pressure, with egos, expectations, and consequences. Right now, JJ Redick sounds like someone who clearly sees the problem, but hasn't fully figured out how to fix it yet. And that's not an insult. That's reality. Another important moment in the discussion came when Shannon talked about role clarity. On paper, it sounds reasonable. In practice, it exposes the Lakers' biggest issue. Luka needs the ball. He cannot be effective without it. Austin Reaves is your secondary ball handler. LeBron James, at this stage, is actually your best off-ball weapon. Let that sink in. LeBron James, arguably the greatest on-court decision-maker in NBA history, is now your third option with the ball. That's not disrespect. That's evolution. That's age, mileage, and adaptation. But once two of those guys sit down, what happens then? Who creates? Who organizes? Who scores? That's where the offense really breaks down. And no amount of clarity fixes that structural problem. Shannon ended the Lakers segment with a brutally honest assessment. Because of their lack of defense, the Lakers must be elite offensively every single night to win. No off nights, no bad shooting games, no cold stretches. That's not sustainable over an 82-game season, and it's definitely not sustainable in the playoffs, where possessions slow down and defenses tighten. That's why JJ Redick's comments feel less like leadership and more like frustration boiling over. The conversation then briefly shifted to Russell Westbrook passing Magic Johnson on the all-time assists list, and it served as an interesting contrast. Despite all the criticism Russ has faced throughout his career, history will be kind to him. One of the greatest point guards ever. Relentless effort, fearless mentality, plays every night at full speed. His flaw was never effort, it was evolution. As his athleticism declined, his shooting never caught up, and that limited how long he could dominate at the highest level. And that's where the LeBron comparison becomes important. LeBron has evolved. He doesn't rely on speed anymore. He doesn't rely on jumping ability. He relies on IQ, positioning, and efficiency. That's why this JJ Redick moment matters so much. Because when a coach publicly questions organization after LeBron returns, it raises a bigger philosophical question. Is this team still being built around LeBron, or is LeBron now being asked to fit into something else? That's the tension. And that tension doesn't stay quiet forever in the NBA. So now we come back to the central issue. JJ Redick didn't say anything outrageous. He didn't insult anyone. He didn't name names. But in this league, perception is reality. And perception says this sounded like frustration directed upward, not downward. And when frustration points toward LeBron James, the spotlight intensifies. So I'll ask you one final time. Was JJ Redick being honest, or was he shifting blame? Are the Lakers fixable, or are they exactly who Shannon Sharpe says they are? And if things don't improve, who ultimately takes the fall? The coach or the king?